Welcome, Reuben.
Continue. Hi, Austra. How are you?
What did I have never had it when I start recording. I just had audio. This meeting is being recorded. I was like, I have never had it before. It was like, what just happened?
Oh, it's an update. It's an update, I guess, so that people don't like record a meeting without each other knowing.
Oh, like you heard it as well?
Yeah, I heard it as well.
Okay.
I had it as well. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So can you explain who you are? Just pretty much like what you said me before we started recording.
Okay. Well, to put it simply, my name is Reuben, and I've just recently graduated with a master's in mechanical engineering from the University of Liverpool, John Moss, and that's how I know you. And then on top of that, I've just recently started work as a business development specialist for an Indian company called Roll-On Seals. We sell mechanical seals. Besides all of that, professional life, blah, 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 I'm really, really interested, and I've got a deep passion for the arts industry. So anything to do from music to digital art to even contemporary drawing, that's what I'm all about. I also run my own art page where it's a side business for me that I do commissions for people through my iPad, and I use a software called Procreate. And besides that, my music aspect, I play at bars on the weekends, and I do some gigs here and there.
I haven't heard of your new job. Like, what is it that you have to do there?
So at the moment, so to put it simply, it's sales, right? To put it very simply, it's sales. So I have to go down, I meet clients, and these are usually very like heavy industry clients. That means clients who are producing chemicals or plastic components or manufacturing any sort of like products, right? That use a certain amount of chemicals. So what happens is when you have chemicals that you want to pump through a system, you will first need a motor. So a motor drives a pump, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that pump sort of pumps the fluid to wherever it needs to go. So when you've got a motor, which is an electric component, it's transferring electric energy to mechanical energy. So you will need a little component in the middle between the motor and the pump to sort of separate the medium, so that you don't have anything that's flowing through the pump travel through the motor and destroy the motor. Okay. So these little components in the middle are called mechanical seals. Okay. And a small component like this can cost about $10,000, $10,000, $20,000. It really depends on the specification of the mechanical like seals. So my job is to go in to understand what the customer needs, to put forward a couple of our suggestions, and to also contact our research and development team from India to find out what's the best for them, and then pitch it out to them. And then after that, I also will be there for the commencing and also the installation of the mechanical seal to make sure everything goes smoothly. And that will be the base of what I do. I also do a little bit of customer support. So if they need a bit of support to understand, okay, what's going on, if they need spare parts, we come in as well. And that's what I do on a daily basis.
So like how did you even get in like engineering, or like, because I think it's so hard, like so much math.
Well, to be completely honest, I didn't get into engineering because I wanted to do engineering. You know, like there's a stereotype with brown people.
You're like
if
one
you're
of
brown,
those
the
stories.
only thing you're allowed to do. Yes, I'm one of those. I'm one of those sad stories. Like you're only allowed to do medicine, law, or engineering. Anything else is a disappointment to the family, right? So because of that, I sort of I went for engineering. Things worked out at the end. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I think a lot of people tend to have an overestimation of how hard this can be. But if you put in the work every day, if you attend classes, you sit down, you ask your lecturers, hey, what's going on? I don't understand. If you got supportive friends, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Did you like, I think you were in that like karting team or something like that. I don't know if I remember the name correctly, where you were like driving those mini cars.
Hey, first of all, it's not a cart, okay? Okay, it's so the competition is called Formula Student. So it's
Oh, okay.
basically a competition that's
I was
held by
close.
the IMAC. Right. So where we've got to design, build, and race our own like vehicle. And given the fact that the whole world is moving towards more renewable energies, our project this year was to develop our very first electric vehicle, right? Our very first electric race car. And that was quite the challenge. It was amazing working with the team in LGMU. We won fourth best UK team. So that was fourth best globally, second best UK team. So that was quite something. We beat Uni of Liverpool. So that felt really good.
That's like the biggest competition, I think.
Yeah.
They're both like competing with each other.
Yeah, of course.
So like,
Of
okay,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I know how you got into engineering. How did you get into art?
Well, art was there ever since I can remember. Like ever since I could remember being maybe 5, 6, I could hold a pencil. I used to admire my older sister. Like she was like a cousin sister who used to take care of me, babysitter. Right? She
Yeah.
babysits me when I was younger. And she used to have all sorts of like doodling on her like little diary, and I liked it. So I'll always ask her, like, hey, can you draw me something? Can you draw me something? Got so pissed off. She was like, you know what? I'm gonna draw you this. You draw it yourself. Right? So I was like, oh, how do I do this? And then she just taught me how to trace. So she said, okay, why don't you put a paper on top of an image you want to draw and just trace the outline of it. So since then, I've just been tracing and tracing, and then I slowly sort of developed the understanding of what drawing is, and it's all about proportions, and that's where like the interest started, and then it slowly developed towards time.
And the music?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, music. Oh man, here's another story, right? So, so again, my family like because for some reason my parents thought it'll be a very good idea for me and my siblings to learn the piano, right? I had no interest in learning the piano, but I was forced to learn it anyway. So we were forced to just go for exams and learn the piano, pick it up, do theory and practical. So I made it to my grade 8 for practical, but I failed my grade 8 by 3 marks. So that was a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. It, however, helped me to understand music in general and how to read notes. So because of my understanding that I got from piano, I could learn how to pick up the guitar for myself. So I learned the guitar by myself. Obviously, I used YouTube a lot as well, and the ever popular Ultimate Guitar to sort of get myself through some songs, and to understand which chords are being used, what tabs are being used. So that was how I got into playing the guitar and singing. Singing, I'd say, through church. I guess growing up as a Christian, you attend church, you got to sing for the choir, and there's a lot of singing involved. So naturally, I sort of developed some singing skills. So that's how I got started.
Right. So like with the forcing or like that you have to do certain things as a kid, I think a lot of times people might perceive it as something bad, especially at the time as you do it. But like in your case, it was actually helpful for you because you learned music that maybe at the time you might not even like
Yeah,
you didn't know that that's something that you would go into or that you would get like passionate about. Um, so like, can you speak a bit more on that? Because I think there are a lot of people that, and I know quite a bit people as well that they feel like they are forced into things. And how maybe when you are forced into those things, maybe to find, I don't know, light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah. No, I think yeah, that's a very good topic to talk about actually, because I think most Asian children, generally you will see that they don't have a lot of autonomy on what they want to do as a kid. So generally, we've just got to do what our parents tell us to do, right? And most of the time, it's all about how you perceive it at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure when your parents are pushing you towards something, it's because they truly believe that's going to benefit you in the future. Sometimes it really would, and sometimes it might not be as beneficial as if you actually listen to your child and what they want to do,
Yeah.
right? But I'd say children who are not really inspired when they're young, it's good that their parents force them. But if you've got a child who has clearly identified what they want to do, it's best to support them in what they want to do, right? We've got a child who just doesn't know, right, what they want to. It's good to just sort of
Yeah.
expose them to certain things, and then in the future, they can sort of cultivate the skills they learn from each one of these things to sort of get into the one that they want to go, and they can go far with it, right? So that's what I did. So I took my knowledge from piano, translated it to guitar, and now I'm okay with the guitar, you know. So I would say it can be both good and bad. It's all about how you take it, how you perceive it, how you want it to work for you. I could have sat there and, just be, I could just hate my life. I could just hate my mom, and I could just hate everything around me, saying that, oh, I want to do something else. This is totally not helping me. Or I could just see it as, what, this has given me some advantage. I'm just going to see what I can learn from this, see how I can translate the skills from this to something else. That's it.
I think like we usually you can understand those things only looking backwards, because in that moment you're like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, they hate me, they don't understand me. Which like probably a lot of times is the case, because like one thing is that they do what they think is the best for you, but I think sometimes it might be even the case that they do what they think is the best for them, which is a bit different. um but like
Yes.
in my case, well, my dad wasn't too happy when I said that I want to study psychology. He was like, are you sure, like, is that really something you want to do? um and I was like, well, yeah, I have been into psychology like for a long time, and I just didn't see myself in anything else. And I had no idea even like, I remember I was thinking, so when I will be psychologist, will I just like sit in one room and talk to people? Like, is that what I will do? I wasn't sure I want to do that. Um, but still, like, I knew that
Right.
probably psychology is my kind of area. But like my
Yeah.
dad was like, are you sure maybe you want to do like something in like business or stuff like that, because I had really good marks in school. um and
Yeah.
and he sent me to one, there was like a seminar, or like, I don't know, it was like for 2 days, I think. And it was something where it was like in business field, but something where you need like psychology kind of skills. It's similar to like HR with it, like it was about like hiring and firing and things like that. And I was sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure this is something that I would enjoy, at least at the time. And I told that to him,
Yeah.
and I said, I remember usually I was getting up at like 5 a.m. and doing my morning workouts. And one morning I got up and I sat down and I looked at like psychology degrees. And I'm like, oh, this actually is really interesting. So I said to my dad about it, and like a few days back he came and he's like, well, actually it sounds pretty good. Like there's quite a lot of opportunities there as well. Like you can even go and work in like business as a psychologist and stuff like that. So I got the approval, which is like,
Yeah.
in a way, I'm really thankful for that, because our parents, their main objective is that you do what you enjoy. Like, you should get like in their eyes, you should get higher education, um, but in something that you think you want to do. So like they didn't force us too much. There was still some resistance, but they were like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
like if that's what you want, so you have to be a bit resilient to
Yeah.
get
Not
to
too
that
much.
place. Yeah. And I'm not even sure how they allowed me to come to UK. They were
Yeah.
like, wait, so, and because I had started to study psychology in Latvia, so I was like first year in Latvia, and I'm like,
Yeah.
in open day for that uni that I was studying in, they mentioned sports psychology, and I'm like, huh. Because I was thinking, how will I combine sport with psychology? Because I was in sports a
Psychology.
lot.
Right.
And I was like, sports psychology
Yeah.
sounds really interesting. It sounds like I can combine them. And I started looking
Yeah.
into it.
Both.
And yeah, and like you,
Yes.
you
Yes.
can't study sports psychology in Latvia. So I would have to go abroad to study it. Um, and then I was like, I had somebody help me, and she said that I can actually get bachelor's, because I was thinking to finish bachelor's in Latvia and then go for master's, but she said you can do bachelor's. And I remember I told my parents I want to go study to UK, and they were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, why would you want to do that? You said you wanted to study psychology. You're studying psychology. Plus, I didn't have to pay for studies because I
Yeah.
got in like budget. They had like 4 places or like two, I think even 2 places that if you had really good marks, you can pretty much like study for free. So I got into that, and they're like, you're studying for free,
Yeah.
you're studying what you want. And I was also working as a tutor for some kids. I wasn't able to work. So like I
Brilliant.
had one job in store that I quit after 2 days. I was like too bored. 2 days in, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. And then
I can't do this. Yeah.
I posted some ads that I'm going to teach kids like, I don't know, Latvian, English, math. And I had like I think around like 5 to 7 kids that I was teaching each week. And they were like between like I think 7 and 19 years old. And they were like, you are doing this on the
Yeah.
side, you can train and things like that. What else you want? Like, why you have to go to UK? What is up with you? And I'm like, yeah, but in Latvia it
Yeah.
felt a bit too easy. I didn't feel like my brain was being pushed or like challenged too much because I was reading a lot like psychology, and most of the things I already knew that
Fair
they
enough.
were
Fair
teaching.
enough.
So somehow they allowed me to come here, but it's I think even like with time they just learned that I'm stubborn. That like if I if I set my mind to something, I'm probably gonna go and do it. So
Go
like
for
that's
it.
one
Yeah.
thing that has been like helpful. Well, helpful for me in a way. But like I still don't
Yeah.
understand how they allowed me to come to like different country where there's like no certainty of nothing. um, but like, oh yeah, one thing I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you is
I
about,
think that's a lot of
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a very daunting thought. That's a very scary thought. It's not easy to pick yourself up and go into a new country without the certainty or having any financial certainty or sort of a financial like safety net.
Yeah.
But I think I admire. I think I've noticed as well. A lot of Europeans tend to do that. They tend to just go wherever they want in the world and just have the faith that it'll all work out. You know, I think it's quite good. It's quite bold. It's a
Yeah.
really bold thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I have grown
Yeah,
in
yeah.
few
Sorry,
years
what you
more
were saying?
than like I have grown in few years more than I would in like, I don't know, 10 years, like just by going through that time.
Right. Yeah.
And like I didn't have student
Yeah.
finance as well. I had like no financial support. So I had to provide myself.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun. But yeah, like
Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
That's good.
I was watching some of your videos of like how you make your like drawings. Can you explain like what's the process?
Yes.
Because I really want to understand that. They're so cool.
Okay, fair enough. So it depends. First of all, it depends whether or not I'm doing the art for myself or if it's a commission piece. So if it's a commission piece, I'll have I have a little document that I'll send over to my clients, and in that document, it'll entail we've got three consultations. So the first one will be a draft to find out what their ideas, what do they want. Second one will be, okay, when the first draft is in, when my first like sketch is in, we will go over the sketch. If he's happy, then I'll start adding colors. And then finally, they've got one chance to make any changes, final changes before I fully render the piece. That is the process if I'm going through with a client. If I'm doing an art by myself, first of all, I'll find something that like I'm inspired, something that moves me, right? So I use Pinterest to get my ideas from. And then I'll sort of mix and match a few ideas and put my own touch to it. So initially, I'll start with a sketch, a simple sketch, a very rough sketch, and then followed by a finer sketch. Once the finer sketch is done, I'll start figuring out the base color. So I'll work from the back to the front because when I'm using this Procreate app, you get to build your layers, right? So
Okay.
you get to build your layers. And this is really good because if you make a mistake on one layer, you don't have to go back and like erase any other layer. You just go to that layer,
Okay.
delete the layer, and then you can work on it new one, right? And so this makes it simpler. This is why I'd advise anyone can do art these days. Anyone can do digital art because this app is just really, really, it's forgiving with mistakes. That's the best way I can say it, right? So that's how I built my colors. And then I'll finally see if I'm happy with how the picture looks in general. The idea is simple. When you look at an art, you will need to find anchor points. So that means you need to decide what you want your viewers to look at first, right? What you want them to be drawn at first. And then secondly, okay, then what is the next thing you want their eyes to sort of draw on? So this is done by sort of, focusing on the colors you use, the contrast you use, focusing on how much this like little image is coming forward compared to what's sitting in the back. If you have a picture that is sharp all over, right, and the colors are just all over the place, it's just vibrant everywhere, then you're going to struggle to, your eyes are going to struggle to find an anchor point. And that's when people will be like, oh, okay, it's just a nice picture, it's nothing amazing. But if you've got anchor points, your eyes will just slowly be able to admire every single detail on the picture.
So how do
So
you control
that's
that?
like in general of what I know so far.
Like, I think there's a lot of psychology that
So
goes
you
into
control it
that.
by, as I mentioned, a little bit. Yes, a little bit. I think our eyes are drawn to certain types of colors, certain type of hues. It's also drawn to, also depends on what kind of like art you're trying to make. Some people like realism, right? So which means how real you can make your art to what you see, in real life. Okay. I'm not really into those kind of art because I don't find a reason to do that. You can take pictures and they look real, right? So when it comes to digital art, I like artists that are able to sort of have a bit of abstract nature to their art, that when you see it, when you see it in one glance, you get what it is about. You see the image, you sort of, okay, that is a person's body, that is a figure. But if you look at the details, it has nothing similar to what the texture of a skin is. It's got nothing similar to, you can actually see strokes or brushes. If you pay attention to the picture, you can just see how it was made. Like, it's a bit of, I say, a good balance between abstract and realism. So that's what's, really nice about like famous artists' pictures. And yeah.
How would you describe being like creativity? Because I think, let's say, to a logic person, they're like, well, I don't get it. It's like it's like a waste of time or like stuff like that. Um, how would you
Yeah.
describe like what's the importance of it and what it is? Because I think many times people don't take it as seriously or are like, oh, it's like whatever. But I think it's really important to kind of explore your like creative side, because there's so many things that you can learn about yourself as well as you do that. So how would you describe to somebody who is like completely logical person?
Okay. So I have to say that nothing else in this world moves people as much as art. So if you notice, music moves you, visual art moves you. The purpose of art is to invoke a sense of just an awakening, right? A sense of awakening in you. When you see something, something moves in you, and that is the power of art, right? If there is no art, there is no purpose for anything else in this world, right? What do you want to live for? You don't live for maths, and you don't live for science. Yes, science and maths help you live, but you don't live for it.
Yeah.
You live for art, you live for music, you live for beautiful things. So I'd say the purpose of art is to move you. And I believe no matter how logical you are, everyone's able to appreciate a certain type of art. Some of them like visual art, right? Some of them like music. um, I'd say that personally, what moves me is a bit of both, right? Visual and also music. And what I like to finally nail in is the fact that anyone can make art. Your purpose here is to create something. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? No matter how new you are to it, if you just start, you will get somewhere with it. And you're leaving your mark. At the end of the day, no matter how insignificant you think your work is, your children, your grandchildren, someone out there in years to come might hold this piece of paper that's scribbled and feel that, okay, this person has left something here. Like this is the our work.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot of value, right? You leave something behind in this world. It has value.
Yeah. Like for me, one thing is that letters. I haven't written in a while, but like I write letters. And I remember when I was in basketball, like every Saturday we would go and visit our grandparents. And whenever I couldn't make it because of the basketball, I would write them a letter being like, how was my
Yeah.
school? How was like basketball or games or things like that? And they would always like write me back. And like I have saved them, and it's a
Okay.
and I know that like my granddad has passed away, my grandma is still alive, but I know that when they are not there, I still have something left from them. And I always like read them over and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And like they also had written, so they had a dog named Jax, and they write at the end of the letter, they say, and Jax is saying hi, wow wow, something like that, like dog sounds. And I'm like, oh, Jax is also saying
That's
hello.
cute. That's cute. Yeah.
But like those letters, it's like that's something that is left behind, and I think it never goes out
Yeah.
of
So
date.
you get the point.
Yeah. um
Yes. Yes. You feel there's something to treasure.
oh yeah, I think it's interesting how
Yeah.
how we have certain things where somebody else from the side, they're like, it's just a thing, but for you it's something like really really important, and you like are emotionally
Yeah.
attached to it. And that's like, and when you lose it, it's like the end of the world because of that one thing. We have like things that we associate certain memories with or certain people with, that sometimes we only have like one thing left behind from those people, and we want to like keep that thing always with us. I think that's something really interesting because technically it's, they are gone, it's just a thing.
Yeah. Sorry. I think you cut off at the end. I couldn't hear what you said at the end.
Oh, I just said pretty much like that. It's like a, it's just a thing, and technically they are gone, they might not be in your life anymore, but still that like
Yeah.
object reminds you of
It
them,
holds
and it's
value
so important.
on
Yeah.
the person. Yeah.
And it can
Awesome.
be
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. True. Very true. Like famous works of art that resonates to people through this day is like, okay, so these are people. I'm just going to quote some people that I admire, right? So he's an astrophysicist by the name of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love his outlook on life, and I love his passion for space. Okay, and I love how he ties art to space. Okay, and the famous work by Vincent van Gogh. You've got Starry Starry Night, right? And in which he sort of relates how he drew the stars, which is really absurd. In the way like Vincent van Gogh drew and painted his stars is very different to how people perceive it. And what was amazing is how this astrophysicist could look at it and somehow tie it to something that is physical, something that's out there that looks very different, but somehow he managed to relate it, right? He managed to relate it. And that's what the purpose of life is. It helps you, art is helps you to understand what you can't really understand without it, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It's a medium to communicate ideas. It's a medium to communicate thoughts without words. That is art,
I
right?
think
And
it's
so that is the beauty of it. That's another beauty of it.
yeah. I think with the,
Yeah, yeah,
there go, like I have one friend who was studying or still is illustrating, and also like digital art. And when I would have
yeah,
conversations with her, she would tell me about how much you have to know. Like even like when you are drawing a person, you have to know like pretty much like everything about human body, how like all the proportions, everything, or like emotions, and how to express them, how
yes,
to like illustrate them. And then like when it comes to, I don't know, let's say a car, or how the car is driving, some mechanics, and like there's so much detail that goes into that, that you have to know behind the scenes. It's not just that you sit down and you draw, you actually have to know so much detail.
yeah,
um And even like when sometimes when I watch like animation movies, it's so crazy how those characters, they look so real, like their emotions or the way
Yeah,
they express
emotions,
themselves,
yes,
it looks so real. It's
real,
insane.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think what your friend is saying is absolutely 100% true. So, as I mentioned before in the start of our conversation, that it's all about proportions, right? So, you need to understand anatomy. To be able to draw someone properly, you need to understand anatomy. You need to understand bone structure. You need to understand perspectives of bone structure, right? From there, you can build the muscle structure. Okay, if this person is muscular, how would it look from this angle, right? If this person is a bit more chubbier, how would they look from that angle, right? So it's all about perspectives, understanding anatomy, and then trying to get the proportions right. That's about
Yeah.
it. That is just drawing. On top of that, you've got another layer. When you start coloring, you need to understand light,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So how light works. You need to understand when there's a source of light, where the source of light is coming from. If this source of light is going to hit this, where are the shadows going to fall? Where the mid-tones going to be, right? And if you've got different types of light, so say, so you've got a surface that's blue, you've got a light that is pink. How would the diffused light look like, right? How would that color be? So these things come to play. And then if you really understand light and how it behaves, if you really understand proportion and how it looks, you can create an amazing work. That's how it is. Like, yeah.
There goes so much into art. Like, and I think that's, and I had a conversation like few episodes back about making videos or like being on YouTube. People are like, oh, it's nothing. Well, when I started filming, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to film, you have to edit, you have to post, and you have to like, I don't know, on YouTube create a thumbnail, and then you have to like
Yeah.
schedule, then you have to post about it.
Schedule.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's like, and that's
It's
when,
a full time.
yeah, and that's when I tell people that even like when it comes to art, if you think that it's nothing, or you just sit down and you're like, oh, I feel this like energy and I just draw whatever, there goes so much into that, that like if you talk to somebody in the field, you see that, well, it isn't that simple. Like even myself,
Yeah.
before I talked to my friend about it more and I was really interested listening, I'm like, wow, there goes so much into this. It's not just that you sit down and you draw, or like you know how to color, like
Yeah.
whatever. um
Yeah.
and like that's when I was like, wow, that. And also I think when you understand better how much it takes, you have more like respect towards people that are doing it. Because I
Of
think
course.
being creative, it isn't easy, because it's not something that you can like, oh, I just gonna generate my creativity for this next like painting or something like that. It is something that you like, how do you get in like creative state? Because I think many people don't even know like what it is or how it looks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think channeling your if you want to do arts as a full-time job, you cannot rely on inspiration, right? You have to rely on discipline and purely discipline. So you need to set your time. You need to say, okay, by this time, I'm going to choose something and I'm going to start drawing something, regardless if I'm feeling like I want to draw or not, right? You get into art by inspiration. You stay in art with dedication. Okay. So you've got to dedicate the time for you to find ideas, dedicate time for you to get your ideas onto paper. And then after that, as you said, you've got background work to do. You've got background work to do. You've got to edit. You've got to try and make your process as interesting as possible. You've got reels these days, right? You could sort of show people, okay, this is how it happens, make it as interesting as possible, make it as engaging as possible. And this takes skills. You just can't just videotape some part of your art process and think that that's going to be exciting. You got to figure out, okay, what makes you excited first, and try to like get into the mind of your viewers to see what they would like to see. And everyone these days don't have too much time to spare. They want to see as much as they can in a very short
Oh
time,
yeah.
and that's it. So you got to make it as interesting as possible, as engaging as possible, and as interactive as possible in the shortest time possible.
How like, how do you deal with boredom? Because I think when you're making a piece that is like takes a lot of time, I assume there's a time when you feel bored or you feel like, ah, do I want to finish it? Or like what it actually takes to finish. Because I think that's another thing is that people think that if you make an art that like all the time as you're making this art, you're like super inspired, super like creative
Yeah.
and things like that. So what's the process when it like, or when does it get like boring when you're like, oh my gosh?
Right. So it sometimes can get boring when you're working on an art that's relatively new to you, or you don't have a lot of passion towards the concept. Right. However, I'd say that as you're working, because it's a process that's quite relaxing. To be completely honest, when you're working, it is sort of, I see it as therapy for me. While I'm putting down the colors, while I'm trying to work things out, it is a relaxing process, but you can get fatigued. Fatigue, that means you've been hours, because one piece, one actual good piece can take 20 hours to make. My last piece took me 26, 24 hours. That's a whole day.
Yeah.
That's a whole day of just, working and working and working. But obviously, it's sort of spread out throughout maybe a week or two, depending on how busy you were. So you got to set a time where, okay, you tell yourself, okay, for this hour. Usually, I do it before bed because that's the time I can wind down. I'm slowly winding down. I'm relaxing. I'm totally in a space where I'm not under stress to finish the work. But that's how I know I'm giving it my best. Right? I'm not rushing anything. The only time you can lose quality or you would probably not be able to express yourself fully through your work is when you're rushed through it, right? So you maintain your enthusiasm or your interest in working by making the process exciting for you. For me, the way I do it, I split my screen. I've got YouTube playing next to me. I've got my work next to me. And I play songs that sort of just keep me alive and it keeps the whole process going. So I just feel like music and art just like and like digital art goes together. If you've got the right music to play, it'll be relaxing. You will be fine. You know, the moment you feel fatigued, take a break, short break, and come back to it. That's it.
I think being fatigued from drawing, it's something that people wouldn't think of. How you get fatigued from like drawing. But like another thing that you mentioned is that it's really like it's like a therapy. And there's actually art therapy that actually exists. Um so like in your case, it even might be a way how you take care of your mental health as you are doing something that you enjoy and winding down like after like I don't know working or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you should know this as a psychologist yourself. You got the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah.
right? Maslow's needs in a pyramid, right? And I'd say like expression of yourself is right at the top of it. It's like the perfect. It's like the perfect at the top of it. Then you are pretty. And I see these processes. Me doing art or music, it gives me the sense of accomplishment. Or it gives me a sense of expressing who I am, or expressing what I am. And yeah, so it for me, it's just a good process for my headspace, right? It helps me to sort of regulate whatever I'm doing outside. Even though I've had a tough day at work or if it's a bit challenging at work, if I come down and I know I'm working on something that I truly love, it sort of just makes me, just makes a lot of things better in that sense. Was it fatigue?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I think you can get fatigued doing anything for too long.
Yeah.
If you're doing something for maybe 7 hours straight, 8 hours straight, like you can get fatigued doing it. Also your wrist, like you need to take care of your wrist, your posture. How long have you been spending just looking down on a screen, your neck, right? All of this, like after some time, you just start feeling it. Your physiological side of it would start taking the toll, and then you gotta take a break. And even looking at a screen for way too long is not really good for your eyes as well. So everything, all of your senses will need a break after a while. So that's the only fatigue I can talk about, I guess.
Okay. So when you were talking about expressing who you are, um first, how you know who you are and how you even express it, because I think with art a lot of times it might even be the case that what comes out of you might not even be able to predict sometimes when it just appears, or like, whoa, where did this come from? But also like expressing
Yeah.
yourself like through art. So like maybe you can talk a little on that because I think it's something really interesting.
Right. Okay. So as knowing yourself as an artist is something else, right? Finding your identity as an artist is something else, and knowing who you are as a person is something else, right? So I'd say found my identity as an artist yet, but I'm working towards it, right? Who I am as a person is someone who's just interested in sorts of art, whatever it is, right? So at the moment, I'm just experimenting with different types of art, different types of concepts, different types of techniques with all that I can. And then hopefully by practicing a lot of this, I'll slowly find my identity as an artist. That means when people look at my work, say, okay, that's Reuben's work. Even if my name is not on it, when they see it, that's when I know I've made my identity as an artist. That means there's a certain texture, there's a certain way, a certain concept about my art that is unique to me. Okay. So, but that only takes if you've got years, and it takes
Yeah.
years to cultivate this, right? So I'm in the process of building myself towards that. But at the moment, I find absolute and joy just when I work on a commission for a friend and this person looks at it and says, this is better than what I expected, or this is better than what I imagined, then I feel like I've done a good job. I feel like, okay, that's my job. That's my job to show you something that you didn't expect, to show you something that you couldn't see, right? And that's where I find satisfaction in my identity as an artist now. So, yeah.
I think that piece that you said, showing you something that you couldn't see, that's like, I think it's the same that I do with people when I work with them. I just help them something that they might not be able to see, something they might not be able to see about themselves. Um, Another thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you how do you stay like so positive or like high energy? Because like you, I think every time when we meet or we have conversation, we like always are like laughing and things like that. And I have
Yeah.
never actually experienced you being like down or stuff like that. So like how you maybe maintain like high energy?
If I'm being completely honest, I think it boils down to my personality. Obviously, I do have my times where I'm fatigued. I do have my times that I'm down, and at those times, I try to keep my friends close by, and I try to get on with it. Like I think the past couple of months, from November to like February, wasn't a good time for me because there are certain things that I wanted to go through in life that just wasn't happening because of the COVID situation, right? At that time, I did more art, right? So I went deeper into art. I went deeper into music because that's how I felt like I was just doing better. Gym is something that helped me out as well with my like down times. But besides that, I think most people would generally call me an extrovert. Like
Yeah.
they would tell that I'm just a bubbly personality. That's just my personality. You know, I don't feel I am putting in effort to maintain my personality because that's just who I am.
Yeah.
So it just feels like if I'm breathing, it feels like it's a natural thing for me just to be out there. Um, I guess what I'll say to other people is the way you can maintain this energy, the way you can maintain this, it's not to get too into your head. You got to live outside your head. You got to stop caring about what people will think. You got to stop caring about how people look at you. Express what you feel. Just say what you want to. Say it with your heart, and automatically you would smile while you're saying it, and people around you would feel a genuine energy. Like, I don't know how to explain this. Some people, you can tell that that's not their true energy because you can see they're struggling to maintain a certain type of a persona, right? And somehow you can feel this and it doesn't feel comfortable,
Oh yeah.
right? But there are other people where you just meet them and immediately you're like, okay, like that's who he is and
Yeah.
he's comfortable with it and it's cool. You can hang out. You don't feel like anything's wrong. So I'll just probably advise people to stick to themselves, stick to who they're true to themselves, and without really bothering about what people would say and think about who they are. You know?
So how can you know who you are, or like, I think
Yeah,
even
I
like
think that
stop
sucks off more
caring.
energy than anything else.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said like it's that stopping, even like one thing is to know who you are and also like stopping to care. So like how it's like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, just don't care. People are like, well yeah, it makes sense, but like So
Okay. Okay. I get you. So this is what I'll say, right? This is what I'll say. I'd say stop caring because everyone else is just like you. Everyone else has the same thought process. Everyone else is just worrying about the same thing as well. So what's the point? Everyone's just like you. If everyone's just like you, why bother? you
yeah,
know Everyone has different sort of problems, different sort of dealing with. It doesn't mean if you meet someone they're the most secure person of themselves. No, they're not. They've just learned to sort of be okay with it.
yeah,
They've just learned. And also trust the process that you're becoming a better person every day. If you know that you're putting in effort to become a better person every day, what's there to worry about? Because that is your journey, that is your time, that's what your path looks like. you
yeah,
know and I think you got to have that faith that, okay, you're becoming a better person, and this is how it looks, this is how the process is going to take, and it's okay.
yeah.
Right? That's it.
I think another thing is that I have noticed myself is when you really start to focus on you and you get occupied with whatever you're doing, you don't really have that much time to worry about everybody else because like you're so focused on yourself that it doesn't mean that you're
It's
like
true,
being
so true.
ignorant, but that's one thing
Oh
that I
yeah.
noticed that when I really started to
Ignorant,
work
yeah.
on myself, I even like started to feel happier because I was like, oh, I'm actually moving ahead, I'm getting better. And then I just stopped thinking about whatever everybody else is thinking because I was so much in my own bubble that I'm just like doing my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right because you've invested so much of time in yourself that you don't even have the energy to contemplate on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have the luxury to do so. Yeah, I think that's a very good point as well. You just focus on yourself. You just focused on getting ahead, moving forward, and that's all it should be.
Yeah. I think it takes a while to get, well, not even a while. I had a conversation yesterday about how actually, and I was like, well, it will take me a while to get to that place where I can do that. But then like my friend was like, it took me
Yeah,
1 second to make that decision. Why would it take you a while? And I'm like, why did I even assume it will take me a while? Because like you make decision in one
Uh,
second that like, and
yeah,
that's something that I was thinking like, wow, because of some kind of like past conditioning, I'm affecting how I perceive how fast I can like change or make decisions, which is something that like that's pretty much how our brain works, is that you learn about yourself how fast you can change based on your past, but nobody said that you can't change it like this, that you just now you are like a different
like
person
this.
or you
Yeah,
start to take like different decisions. So that's something that for me it was
yeah,
like, wow, it takes 1 second, it doesn't have to be forever, it's like one decision. um
yeah,
and then you just keep repeating,
yeah.
like reminding yourself that decision to make sure you don't make the other decision.
Yes,
um but that's been something that I
yes,
was like, wow.
exactly. So I think, yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the part of making the decision to change can be immediate, but the part of breaking the habit, your old habit, that can take a while because habits are not easy to get out of.
Oh yeah.
Right? So habit takes a lot of conscious decision to get out of. You need to somehow motivate yourself. You need to somehow stay motivated to sort of change your habits. I think that's the one that takes the longest. It's not the deciding factor. People decide in minutes, in seconds. Um, the staying with the decision that takes longer.
I think also with the like in my case we were talking about my like I have always struggled with like healthy eating. Like for me, I had like emotional eating where like I didn't have anybody to go to, so that's how I learned to cope with like stress with like having food. um and then like I was like, yeah, but I have
Yeah,
had this like for I
yeah,
don't know, like 10 years or something like that. And my friend was like, well, but last year you finished 75 hard, which is like 75 days you go straight with like, and I did it for like over 100 days where I just had no cheat meals. And I'm like, wow. And I just, for in my head, I just deleted this like the most previous experience. and I just identify with 10 years
Experience. Yeah.
before that. And I'm like, oh
10
my
years.
gosh, I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
forget like something that I just started to change. And I think that's where it's important to understand that many habits,
Change. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
they are at your identity level. So if you identify, let's say in my case, if I identify as somebody who is like, I don't know, emotional eater or something like that, it will be really hard to change it, unless I change my identity towards somebody who is like healthy eater. Because then I will always have
Yeah.
this fight with myself about like food decisions, or feel like, oh, but I have
Eating
this
healthy.
craving. I have to fight myself. And I think that's the biggest change people have to make when it comes to habits. You have to start working towards changing your identity, because as your identity changes, like let's say if you change your identity to an athlete, well, there's no chance that you will be like unhealthy if you identify as athlete. Like it's just part of who you are. You have to be healthy, you have to like train and things
Athletes.
like that.
Yes. Yes.
So that's like
Yeah.
really important.
Yes. Yes. I think that's very true. Very true. Very true. What you're saying is the story you tell about yourself is the story you will believe about yourself,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what it is. Like what you tell yourself that who you are, identify as, what do you identify as, and who do you see yourself as, is how you're going to act. You're
Yep.
going to act towards the identity that you've built. Yeah.
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 It's really
Okay. That makes a
simple.
lot of sense.
Really
Definitely.
simple. Like if you
Yeah.
want to change who
Yeah.
you are, change the story.
Change your story. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. This sort of boils us down into another topic of speaking kindly about yourself.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of us tend to just speak like the worst about ourselves. We'll say things like, "Oh no, I know I do this all the time. I always tell people I've got a sweet tooth. I always tell people I've got a sweet tooth." And then this sort of this doesn't help me when I'm making decisions to get desserts or not. Because I've told myself like, "Oh yeah, I'm a sweet tooth. I need to get desserts. I need to get the chocolate. I need to get this. I need to get that." Because that's the story I've told myself. Probably I should change the story. I should change the fact that, okay, no longer call myself a sweet tooth. I just say that, yeah, I occasionally maybe like to have some sweet things.
Yeah.
And then maybe from there change to, oh no, I never have sweet things at all. Like,
Yeah, it's
slowly change
like,
the story and act
or
more.
even like that you don't have to have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I think another thing is
Definitely.
that one thing is that you're saying nice things to yourself, but something else is that to make sure that you're also honest. So if you tell yourself like, "Oh, I'm a hard worker, I'm a hard worker," but you don't do anything, like maybe you have to look in the mirror and be like, "Well, actually you're lazy." And you have to have this conversation with yourself when you're like, you know what, if you want to sort your life out,
Lazy. Yeah.
you have to get up and do the work. Because I think that's another conversation that's important. One thing is that you are nice to yourself and you love yourself, but
Yes.
something else is that you're able to tell yourself like, you know what, like you're not getting results because you don't do anything. So stop being this like special, thinking that you're super special or that you will have any like
Anything.
discounts, and just go and do the work.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true. There's a fine balance between being kind yourself and being real with yourself as well. Like, yeah, you can be kind, but you got to be real just as much. Right?
Yeah.
You got to call yourself out on the things that you're not doing. Like, although I need to do, like, I think they'll have moments where everything's going to go great, and then some hiccup is going to happen, and you're going to fall back. And then you just got to get back and just say, look, yeah, I've fallen back. I need to get back on my track, which I was just now, and continue doing the work. Yeah,
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 and
you're
like
right.
just
You're right.
don't overthink it as well. Like we just overthink way too
Yeah,
much.
way too much. Yeah, just got to shut up, get up, do the work. That's
Yeah. that's
it.
that's one thing that I'm learning, because I'm naturally like really
Yeah, yeah,
curious,
you're right. You're right.
especially about like psychology. I like to understand, why is it like this, why is it like that. But sometimes, like, I remember I
Yeah,
was on a walk one day and I was thinking, well, maybe I don't have to understand always everything, because then when you try to understand and like that's like ironic thing is that many people know why they are the way they are, but that they just stay there and they're like, oh, I know I'm like this because of this, and I'm acting like this because of this. And I'm like, awesome, you know yourself,
yeah.
but what will you do about it? Like, you just gonna tell
So,
everybody that you know you why you are like
yeah,
this, or you actually gonna
right.
take
Yeah,
action
yeah.
towards like changing it? And I was like that for years. So that's something that I'm like,
Changing it. Yeah,
sometimes you don't have to know everything. You just have to or you don't have to understand everything. You just have to start doing something and just go with it.
Definitely. I think that sort of boils down to the fact of you wanting to get better every day, accepting who you are personally on a personal level, knowing who you are on a personal level isn't enough. Like you've got to want to get better every day. That's the only way you can grow. And that's a process. That's a process not many is willing to do because they're like, oh yeah, the world needs to accept me for who I am. I mean, yes, the world needs to accept you for who you are, but at the same time, that does not mean you don't need to put in the work to get better. You
Yeah.
know,
Like don't expect
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like people, it should be okay to be accepted for who you are, but don't expect like special treatment for that. Or if you haven't
yeah,
earned it,
yeah.
um, that's where like there comes a lot of entitled
Earned
people
it.
in.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that goes all hand in hand. Like you can't be entitled for nothing. You just
Yeah.
did nothing, and you're just like, oh yeah, I deserve all of this because it's who I am. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard to teach somebody that it's not the way it works because they are used to getting what they want when they want, and now you're going out in your life and you're like, well, wait, so I don't get promotion because I ask for it? Like what?
No, yeah. I think you gotta ask for what. I think so. My life has always been. I would say the biggest break that I got in my life was asking for something.
Yeah,
Was asking for it, like asking for it and then putting in the work to get it right. Um, Seize it. Sometimes you got to create the opportunity. You create opportunities by speaking out what you want, right? And then you speak out what you want. You work towards it. You put in the work, and finally things will work out better than what you expected or anyone expected, right? You got to be
yeah,
bold enough to ask, bold
yeah.
enough to work for it, and then be patient. Be very patient for your time.
Yeah, so like one thing that
Yeah.
I want to really point out is don't just ask, actually prepare to be able to receive. Because I think that's one thing that people usually
Receive,
miss
yes.
out. That it's like, well, I want to get. Well,
Yes,
then you
yes,
have to
yes.
earn it first. Don't just ask.
Yes,
Work
yes,
towards it.
definitely. Not
And,
to just us, yes.
or like
Yeah.
even with the people being lucky. Um, it's like,
Yeah,
well,
no, yeah, no. Luck is, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I wanted to say like so many times people think that you get lucky or things like that, but actually let's say if you get lucky and you have this opportunity come, well, you have to be ready to actually take it, because if you're not ready,
Of
then
course.
you will just, or either if you take it you will just fail because you're not ready, you haven't put in the work. So luck is one thing that like you can get lucky, but if you're not ready to actually take on that opportunity, like, well, that's it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I believe your luck improves significantly with the amount of work you put in
Yeah.
and how prepared you are, right? Even Eminem says like you gotta prepare to get lucky, right?
Oh
If you're
yeah.
just lucky, you'll miss opportunities if you're not prepared to seize it,
Oh yeah.
right? And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What else have you
definitely.
done outside of engineering and art?
Music.
Okay.
So like I think in Liverpool I started playing um at two different venues. So the first one is the Ibis Styles Hotel in Liverpool. And that was a weekly gig. So every Saturday I'll play for about an hour. I'll get paid for it. So that was amazing. And then every fortnightly I'll play at the Peaky Blinders bar at Baltic Triangle, also in Liverpool. So that's also what I do on like as a side hustle, right? But I play music because I enjoy it. Being paid for it is just a bonus. So it's worked out well so far for me. Like even when I came back to KL, I had a couple of gigs in another bar here in Changkat. So that's like a hub where the pubs are. So that's what else I do besides that. And obviously, I hit the gym every once in a while. Started to try to stay healthy as I can. Um, yeah, that's
Um, with the singing, can you I know there was one time when you were singing, where you were like standing on street. So can you explain, like, can you
Oh,
describe that experience? How was it?
okay. So this was me wanting to just have an experience of busking on the streets, right?
Yeah.
Me and my mate Aziz, like a really good mate of mine, he's from Formula student as well. Um, so we went down. He followed me. He carried my speakers for me, and then we set up on was it Church Street? I think Church Street on both like in L1 Church Street, and
Yeah.
then we set up. I started playing. I had no expectations really. I just went there just to sort of do my stuff and see what the crowd will react like. And I think, given the fact that Liverpool is quite a musical, like a music orientated city, and they've got people who are very much cultured with music and Western music, I did get a lot of attention from the people walking by. I think within the span of an hour, I probably made 12, 13 quid,
Yeah.
right? So that was something, that was something, it was quite an experience. I have people up to me and just like some of them just give you a thumbs up as they're walking, some of them clap, some of them dance with you while they're playing in the back. It was quite fun. Little kids would just come and dance with some pop songs, and some people stay back to have a word with you. They'll say, "Oh, like I like your voice, and I think you should really do this as for a full-time thing." And I tell them, "Thank you. It means a lot for performers like us. We're just coming out doing anything. I think it was a very nerve-wracking idea at first, because what if you go and you mess up? What
Yeah.
if your pitch runs out? What if all this thought just races behind you? But I think the mentality that you need to sort of adopt in this case is the fuck it mentality. Like, you just got to tell yourself, no matter what, people are going to forget about it in an hour. An hour. People are not going to think about how much you've messed up. It's only you are going to think about it as much as you can.
Yeah.
But if you understand that, so, like, look at yourself. How many times you've heard someone like mess up something, and within a few minutes you're back into your life. It's not a thing that's going to be there forever. So just get that mentality out there, that whatever happens is going to be okay. You're trying it for fun. Just see how it goes and go for it.
So explain me fuck it mentality, how you actually apply it. Like, let's say when you're in this moment and you're like singing or about to sing, because I think a lot of times the biggest problem is before you do it, because once you start doing it, it isn't that
Yes.
bad, but before you start taking that
Yeah.
action. So how you apply that mentality in that moment when you have all these like what ifs and stuff like that? So how does it look?
So, for me, it's been years that I just continuously pushed myself on stage. I've always had stage fright when I was a lot younger. And I think every time I told myself, just do one, right? Go up there, say a word, right? Say a word. And then next one, you say a sentence, right? It doesn't matter, whatever you do. As long as you're going there repeatedly and trying to do it as many times as you can, it sort of familiarizes your nerves to be calm in the situation, right? So saying fuck it and just going for it, I think it just sort of, there's a sort of energy that comes with saying fuck it, right? You're just like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's okay. Just do it, right? Just do it. It sort of like reconditions your mind to think that the consequences don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? The consequences don't matter. The action is the only thing that matters right now. Let's go and do it. That's it.
Yeah. Because like
Right?
even with no
So
action, you will
that's
have no consequences.
exactly, right? Like, yeah, with no action, you don't have to, like, there is no consequences. Like, the consequences you will have to live with is your failure of not doing what you want to do. Right? That's the only consequence. Like, you still have to suffer the consequence of, oh, I've
Oh
done it.
yeah.
Oh, I could have done that. I should have done that. You know? Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a different kind of consequences you face, rather than, oh, you know what? I tried. It's okay. It doesn't matter how it went, but I did it anyway, right? And that's it. That's it.
And yeah, like one
Yeah.
thing that I also tell people when it comes to what ifs is that, well, you can have a list of what ifs, but now go and take action and see how many of them actually become true, because most of them will
Oh,
not.
yeah.
And another thing is that
Yeah.
we want to prepare for like something we want to do, but then like you can't prepare for certain things or certain mistakes or something that can come up along the way, because like you just can't predict like every mistake. Like even with the podcast that I started,
Yeah.
for me it was, I don't know, usually I would try to be like super prepared, or like, I don't know, prepared for like long time. But this time I was like pretty much like fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. And like
Yeah.
and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. You're
big
right.
thing for me was to get microphone, because that's when I made in my head I made it real, like this is happening. um
Yeah.
and then I
This is
wrote some
happening. Yeah.
people.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, and like they agreed, and then I had them
Yeah.
on, and I'm like, along the way I made like some things happen, something comes up or something during the recording happens, but I'm like, I just learn from it and I take it on for the next. And I remember um I was telling, I just keep telling this, that I was thinking, well, I was joking around with my brother, you have met him, and saying that, oh, I can't start it until I have my intro music. It's like I can't start it until then. But then like I just
Right. Right.
only
Yeah.
like episode 8 is when I added the music, but that's when it's just like it's just some like it's just bullshit you have in your head about things you can or you can't do.
Into yeah. 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 You're totally right. Sometimes, I think in your case, you mentioned that you bought the microphone and that's when it became real to you,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes you've just got to invest and then have faith that you put in the work to get your investment back and more. So
Yeah.
in your same sense, I did the same for music when it came to, so I invested in an amplifier. I had no reason to buy the amplifier. I didn't have a gig. I didn't have any other, like nothing. I had nothing. I just bought the amplifier because I told myself, I'm going to buy this amplifier. I'm going to take it to the street. I'm going to see if I can play to like get people to give me money, right? And like all that will come later. But that sort of opened the doors for me in the sense that, okay, now I've had amplifier. I can take it to venues. So now venue was paying me to sort of come in there with my own equipment and play, right?
Yeah.
So getting the equipment was one thing. Even like my investment in the iPad, like I had no reason to get the iPad besides like the art, like Procreate, right? Besides getting that application for the iOS, the iPad iOS. I had no
Yeah.
other reason. So I looked up online. I looked at the price. It was like £500. I was like, you know what? Do I have the money for this? I was like, it's okay. I love it. I love what I do. I am going to invest the money. Whatever comes later, comes later. And I've been very thankful to having like a lot of supportive friends. I think my friends were very supportive. They were the first who actually paid me for my work and then slowly gained traction. And then now a few more people. Like, I think it's important to have both. Like, you first putting in the commitment that you're going to buy something or do something or put something forward that is going to hold you to the action.
Yeah.
And then after that, you just continue to deliver.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to be anything big, I think. Let's say one thing that I want
Yeah.
to try
Yeah.
out this year is boxing, or like some kind of like
Okay.
fighting or something like that. And I was
Beautiful.
like, and I was
Yeah.
just thinking about it, thinking about it. But then one thing I started to do is just look at like what kind of trainers are out here or like in this area. And I would like write them. I haven't started yet, but it felt so real when I was starting to take this first like step towards like finding somebody, that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually real. And I have been thinking about this for like, I don't know, 2 years maybe, maybe like a bit over a year. But it's something that I want to try out and see like what happens, because it's like some things we have in our the same as with I want to learn a pull up. I have never been able to do a pull up, and I would always feel weak because I
Okay.
wasn't able to do it. And in my head, I'm like, after like last
Right.
year, after I started to get more in control of my eating with like 75 hard, I was like, well, this seemed or felt impossible. Like I would never feel like I can get in control of my eating. And I was like, if I can get this done, what else can I get done? And then I was thinking about
Get
pull-up,
done. Right.
because like
Yeah.
since I was a kid, I felt like it's impossible for me. But now I'm like, okay, I
Okay.
have to show myself I can get it done. And that's when it's like
Done.
many
Yeah.
things, like once you start to prove yourself, like really good thing that I have learned from my mentor is that learn to prove yourself wrong. So if you think that you can't do it something, instead of proving yourself right about it, prove yourself wrong and be like, you know what? Watch me. I will go and I will do it.
Wrong. Yeah. I can do it. Yes. Yes. Precisely. Precisely. I think that's a very good mindset to have to prove your like negative self wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And then just keep going. Like, I think for me, I don't can't remember if I've my struggles with I think is just diet. That'll be my struggle. Like I would always say like I can't like vegetables is something I don't eat. Like and I've been telling myself every year I've got like a New Year's resolution. Okay, I'm gonna include more greens in my diet. Like I think this year has probably been the best year that I've actually been consuming a little bit more greens than usual. But then work started, and then it went down the drains again because I was being picky with my greens. You know, I used to have like just broccoli because broccoli is the only thing I'll have, and
Yeah.
I'll boil. But when I started work, that's all down the drain. Now I feel like I'm back in square one. So I think I gotta adopt the whole mindset again. Okay, look, like regardless if I'm in the house or if I'm out of the house, I need to have vegetables. And like, yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
And like that's one thing that I tell people and that I have learned about, let's say, and it's pretty much like getting greens. It's pretty much like a habit that you build.
Yeah,
And that's what I tell people is that if it's optional for you, you will find a way not to do it. But if it's not optional, you have to get those greens, then you will find a way.
find a way. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. You're right.
Like
You're
no
very
matter
right.
if
So
you're working or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't give yourself an option. Like if it's an option, you'll never do it. Right.
Yeah. And that's why I also tell people to
Yeah. I think
get
when it
rid
comes
of
to
the word.
workout, it's the same for me. So for me,
Oh my gosh, we actually paused again.
sorry.
um so like I wanted to, like, one thing that I tell people also is to get rid of the word trying, because when you say that you're trying, you actually feel like you're moving towards something, but you actually are not. You might even say that, oh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to start something. Well, then just start it. Don't talk about
Just start it.
trying.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. I think the word trying sort of it makes you feel better that you're going to get there, but you're not really going to get there if you're honest to yourself, right? You're just like, yeah, I'm trying to be healthier, but you're not really. You're not really, you know. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Maybe you can,
Right, what
yeah.
go ahead. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you can tell people maybe where they can find you, or like things like that. Because like there's so many things that you do, and like your art is
Oh, right.
amazing. So
Thank you. Yeah, obviously, like you can find me at Rudelius or at my Instagram, like name, which is Reuben Singh. I'll probably give the details to you so you can put it
yeah,
wherever. And then, so for art commissions that to do it portrait or actually any kind of art, as I've said, I'm experimenting. I'm trying to grow. If you like what I do, if you see and you like what I do, I can do it for you. That's it.
yeah. How
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
say your surname?
So, Reuben Singh.
Singshell. Okay, I have never really heard you
But
say your surname.
yeah. The thing is, I don't really say my surname is because that's like a, it's an informal name. It's not really in my like birth certificate because in my birth certificate it is Reuben Singh, son of, and then my father's name.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't have a surname per se. My father's name has become my surname. So when I
Oh,
asked my dad, okay, dad, what's our family name? Like, and then for one day he said, oh, Shell. And I was like, oh, why is it not on my birth certificate? He was like, yeah, that's the Malaysian system. Like, I don't know. So, so yeah, that's the complicated story
oh
of
wait.
why you
So
don't hear me say
does
my
your
surname a lot.
like surname is made out of your dad's name, or like how does it work?
Yeah, so at the moment, my surname is just my dad's first two names.
Okay.
So I've got like Reuben Singh, it's my name. My dad's name is Darshan Singh. So my full name is Reuben Singh, son of Darshan Singh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like the lamest system ever, man. I hate it.
I think like I've heard it's
But
similar in
it is what
like
it is. It
Russia
is what
as
it is. So my
well,
passport is just,
because like they have
oh yeah, you
like,
don't have like family names.
well, my surname actually means like So like in Latvian, word putns means bird, and putniņa is just a cuter
Oh.
way to say it.
Oh wow. Okay. Wait. So how do you say bird again? Putney.
Putns.
Putnins.
Yeah. And then like when you
Putninya.
say yeah, and when you say and my let's say my brother and my dad's surname is Putninch because they're male. So but like that's what my surname means. So it's not like on like my dad's name or something like that. But I know that there are several like in past there were like certain like small villages and then you are named like your surname is based on that or stuff like that. Or even like occupations.
Yes.
That
Yes.
if you do
Yes.
something like I don't know if you're
Yeah.
I don't know the word, but like you know what I mean. Then that's your surname pretty
Yeah.
much.
Carpets. Yeah. Oh right. Right. Yeah. I think in some of like English surnames that I know of from England, some of them have like a whole county name after them. So Derbyshire. So I've got
Oh
a friend
yeah.
of mine. Her name is Rosemary Derbyshire, and like Derbyshire is also like a county in England. I've got my girlfriend's like Leah Grace Walker, and Walker is like I think it's a surname for a certain role in like the community back in the day or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
So I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
I'm just a bird.
That's cute. That's cute. I didn't
And
know
like
that's what like it meant.
like another thing is that so like our street's name was like Lidoņu Street, and the word lidot means to fly. So imagine bird living on a street that one of like it sounds like it's like one of the words is like fly, like part of it. So that's like pretty cool.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, that is pretty cool. So Litwood is what? What does it stand for again?
So there's a word.
Street.
So the street's name is Lidoņu Street, but the word is lidot, and it means to
Litwood.
fly. Yeah,
To fly.
yeah.
Okay.
So bird living on a
Okay.
street where you can fly.
Fly. Ah. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Imagine what
So I
kind of
see I see some cards
coincidence
at the
it
back
is.
of you.
Oh, this.
Is that like your Gantt chart? Is that like your to-do list? And like, is that weekly, monthly, yearly?
No, like this one was me working on like one program that I'm building, like group program where I work with people. But this board, and I have like, see, this is my vision board.
Okay.
This one is
Oh, nice.
those are like where I write a lot of like quotes or things that let's say somebody tells to me, I'm like, wow, it goes on the board. So that's like where I have collected like a lot of like quotes or thoughts that like several times I read over them and I'm like, yeah, let's get this. They really make you think or like realize like certain things. So I have a lot of stuff like that. I don't know. I have had it like for a really long time. Since I remember, I don't know, even like in
Yeah.
school, I would have like I would put something on the wall or like I didn't have my own room. I had literally like above my bed like small space where I can put something that I would put like some quotes or stuff like that. So or like plan everything, things like that. I have always been like really organized in that sense. But yeah, and people sometimes when they come in this room, they're like, wow, this is so like motivational. I'm like, what? It's just a room.
No, it's good. It's good. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. That's really good. Like I think having a vision board, having a plan board is really good. I probably should have one in my room as well, but I just don't know where I'm going to be for a while. Because at the moment my life is a bit all over the place. I'm still myself a steady foot to put on.
Yeah.
So my plan is either stay in this job or a PhD. So if I do the PhD, I'll probably come back to Liverpool. And if not, be some other job. So
right. So when are you
fingers
thinking?
crossed. Let's see
When
how
are
it
you
goes.
thinking to do the PhD? Like this year?
Yeah, as soon as I can, really, as soon as I can, because it really depends on when the funding for the Vice Chancellor Scholarship is open again.
Yeah.
So
what's
once
the process
they
for
announce
you
the Vice
to
Chancellor
get
Scholarship,
to study? Like, what's the process for you?
I need like it's an application.
Yeah.
So I need to put in a PhD application. I need to find a project, find a supervisor, and then write a really impressive and moving cover letter that sort of tells people like, yes, I'm the one for you. But we'll see. It's been a challenge because international students, there are only like 5 spots for international students, so not many. And usually, if I don't have industrial backing, it's going to be near to impossible.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Wait, so what is industrial
Yeah.
backing?
Oh, you're back. Okay.
We both
Well, okay.
just both
Okay.
dancing.
Okay. That's cool.
I asked you about the industrial
Okay.
backing.
Okay.
Like, what is it?
So industrial backing would be a project that, say, an industry is looking to identify or sort of research a project, right? So, for example, say Unilever wants to find out what is a more efficient way to mix their products. So that's a project. Probably if they've got a staff working, they'll say, okay, we're gonna back you with some of the funding you needed. You go into this university and you conduct this research,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So the university only has to pay probably half the amount of scholarship as they would have to pay me, who's not backed industrially, right? So it really depends on the project and who's interested in the project. If I've got more people who are interested to sort of invest in the project, then I wouldn't have to pay as much, right? But to say if this is completely my project, then it has to be a project that really looks so good and promising that the university is willing to sort of invest in me so that at some point they can get right. So that's how it works. It's all about the money.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how, let's say, for some people their like chances are, well, to extent limited just because of the like resources and things like that, even if they have like a lot of potential and a lot of like willingness to put in the work, which I know you are like that. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how you manage everything that you do, because you do like so many things. um that's like really impressive, and like it always seems like you are always like so high on energy. So it's like, how do you do all that? And then you're like super like positive and like social as well, because one thing is that you do everything and you don't have any social life, but you're like really social as well. So I'm like, how does that happen? Like
Yeah, yeah. I think the whole big. I like social, being social. I think that gives me energy. Like
yeah.
people give me energy if I'm around people. If I'm around like vibrant people, I sort of feed off things as well. Like, yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. It was actually a really good
No
conversation.
worries. It's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Um,
I might get you on another
yeah, you think
time
so? So
because
you,
like
you no problems.
we just keep breaking up. It's like, I speak, you speak, I speak, you speak. But yeah, like I probably will get you on another time and see, like, maybe we might even meet up if you get to Liverpool. Hopefully you get it sorted and you get back. So and then you'll have like
Thank you.
PhD.
Fingers crossed.
Wow, look at you.
If it's meant to be. If it's meant to be. Let's. I'll work towards it. I'll apply.
Yeah.
And then see where it goes or where it takes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully it takes the best route possible.
What are your plans?
I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, hard to say with all the lockdown going on, or like the COVID situation. I was thinking to like try to
Yeah.
look into maybe unis in Canada, but I had conversation with somebody in Canada a few days ago, and they were like, "Don't come to Canada. We have lockdowns all the time." Um, so it's still
Yeah.
like a question mark, pretty much. But I I'm still like doing what I'm doing, working on myself, like working with my clients and just like working on some courses. So it's not that I'm like now waiting to make decision. It's just like as I move, I will see what decision to make, because I am thinking to get back in like education, maybe get masters in maybe organizational psychology or something else. Like I have
Yeah,
looked
yeah,
into
that
some
sounds good.
topics. Because like I want to be able to call myself psychologist. At this point I can't.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yeah.
but
Okay, okay,
it's something that I also connected with somebody who is, one of my dreams is to work with at least one NBA athlete. um, and I connected with
okay,
somebody, there's a lady that is actually doing that right now, and I was like,
okay,
whoa. Well, first thing is that I didn't even know if there's like any females doing it. um, but then when I
okay.
connected with her, I'm like, there's actually somebody who is doing exactly what I want to do right now. And I connected with her. I'm like, that dream became just so much more real in my head. Um, so yeah, just pretty
Yeah,
much like taking it one day at a time and just moving ahead one step at a time and see what happens.
fantastic,
Just like
fantastic.
all of us, I
No,
think.
I'm sure you'll get to where you're gonna get. Like, definitely, definitely. Either way, I think I was just gonna say, I know you're gonna get to where you're gonna get. I've not met many very like high, very functional, high functioning people like you. So you'll definitely be one of them. Like I tell my friends here as well, like, look, this girl is just like all the time I see her, she's working on something. You know, she's either working out, she's working on like meal plans or like training preparation for some athlete, you know, or she's doing a podcast and like, yeah, it's good. Just keep going. I'm pretty sure you're gonna be very, very successful in the future.
Yeah,
Guarantee
well,
you that.
I have to deal with boredom somehow, you know?
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah, like
Yeah, 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 definitely.
when I came out of uni, first few months I did nothing. I was just like chilling, watching movies, or like eating whatever I wanted to eat. And at some point I was like, I'm starting to feel like miserable. Like this is, oh, like it, I didn't
Yeah,
enjoy it.
yeah,
So I need to do something to like that. When I do nothing, I feel like it's draining. Like I just don't like doing nothing. Like it's, I don't
yeah.
know how, like respect for people
You
who can
can't
do
do
it.
nothing.
Yeah, I just can't.
Yeah, yeah, you can't. Yeah, no, I get
I
you. I
have to
get
do
you. I'm the
something,
same as well.
even if it's like
Something, yeah.
not
No,
related to
that's
what
good.
I'm doing. I try to learn like one new skill a year. So this year I'm thinking to
Brilliant.
have like, well, podcasting, I don't really consider it as like, it's like a new project, but it's not one of the skills. I That's where I was thinking about like boxing, because it's something that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's something that will definitely be out of my comfort zone and I might actually enjoy
Yeah,
it. So
yeah. I think it's both good. I think as long as you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, that sort of gets you in the mindset to try anything that is required from you later on.
yeah,
You'll be in the mindset that, yeah, you know what, I can do it. If there's an opportunity that comes by, you'll be like, yeah, I can try it. I can do it. You
yeah,
know, you won't be like, oh my God, I'm not sure what's going to be like. I'm not going to do it. Like, you know,
yeah. And
yeah,
like you don't
yeah,
even
that's good.
have to feel ready. Like I had a job where
Yes, yeah,
like one time when I had a job, I got like digital marketing job, and day before I started,
yeah,
it was Sunday. I had a call with that like my future boss, and he was like, "Can you start working on SEO?" Like or like he was like, "When can you start working?" I'm like, "Tomorrow." Can you work on like SEO? I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Like I can do it." And I had no idea how to do it. I know what it is, but I didn't actually know how to do it. So so I just went and I was like in library, and after we finished the
yeah.
call, I just went on LinkedIn and I was like, um, SEO expert. And I was just like writing people, hey, my name is Austra. I'm new in SEO. Can you help me out? And like I had few people respond. And like I
Oh, that's
had few
good.
people respond.
That's good. That's actually very smart.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
like after a few days, they didn't need it anymore. They gave me something else. But if I said that, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do it, I wouldn't get a job.
yeah, yeah. So what is SEO anyway?
It's search engine optimization. So it's pretty much like, let's say if you search for Reuben on Google, it's like how you make sure that you are the one who appears at like the top. So
Top. Okay.
so that's
Okay.
pretty much like what it is about. And I knew what it is, but I didn't
Okay.
actually know how to actually do that. So that's when I was like, yeah, sure, like I can do it. And then I just went on LinkedIn and I wrote people, and that's like a few days in, they just said me to do
Okay.
something else. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. It was a very, very wonderful conversation with you. I appreciate you taking out your time. I think we'll look forward to. Oh, you stuck again. This is where we start
I can
dancing.
hear you. We're back.
Okay, I'll be back.
Yeah, so like I might get you on
Oh
another
no, you're
time, but
gone
like
again.
this was awesome
Okay,
conversation.
this
And
is a sign. I guess this is a sign to
yeah.
say goodbye.
Yeah.